What's up guys, it's me Jeremy. With leaks constantly changing items, champions, meta, everything's being buffed and nerfed, the things in the meta change quite a lot, and there's a lot of really overpowered champions that are totally abused and just played by everyone in SoloQ. But because the meta tends to revolve so heavily around pro play, there can be a lot of really underrated sleeper picks that aren't really played all that often that definitely deserve to be given a lot more love and overall are just really strong options, because you have to remember, SoloQ is not the same as pro play. So even though, yes, a lot of the champions the pros play are great champions, there's a lot of other options that the pros don't necessarily use for one reason or another. So today we're taking a look at some off-meta champions that are definitely really strong options for you to play in SoloQ, and we'll also in this video be defining an off-meta champion as one that is played in about 3% games or less. So that's kind of like the stat that we're using, because it's kind of hard to decide, what's off meta, what's not. There's not really a great way to tell. So we're just going to stick to the statistics. And so hopefully if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely leave a like on it or let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe for some more videos. And this video is sponsored by ProGuides.com. They're actually doing a $25 RP giveaway. It's pretty easy to enter. A lot of you keep asking me how to get better at League of Legends, and of course I don't really have that much time to be able to message everyone individually, so I always refer anyone who wants to increase their rank to ProGuides.com, of course, which is a great website that's got a bunch of guides from pro players, and you can get one-on-one coaching with challenger players as well 24/7. To enter the giveaway, just subscribe to their YouTube channel and click the bell using the link below in the description. So first up, we've got Twitch as an AD carry, which is a really solid pick at the moment thanks to the crit item rework a while back, which gave Blade of the Ruined King, one of Twitch's core items, some really nice buffs. He works pretty well against a lot of other AD carries like Lucian and Ezreal, which are definitely seeing a lot of play. Twitch can sometimes have some weaker matchups, but overall he's just such a versatile character. He has so many tools at his disposal. One of the few AD carries that has two built-in steroids on his kit. He's got one on his Q and one on his ultimate. And of course the invisibility from his Q is definitely really OP in SoloQ. It's the kind of thing that if you play Twitch in SoloQ, you'll be able to get some kills in the game that you just wouldn't be able to get with any other champion. And it's the kind of strength that, well, it might not be that relevant at the pro level of play, but in SoloQ, where everyone's kind of just running around with their heads cut off, it's really going to put you a nice step ahead of the opponents. Now, Twitch as a character, he does have a 2.3% pick rate, so that qualifies him for this video, but he's actually got a really solid 52% win rate, which is significantly above average. And in terms of runes and builds, people are finding a lot of success running Lethal Tempo and using the Blade of the Ruined King build into Hurricane. He's a great unpredictable pick for the bot lane that also brings a dominant endgame hyper carry status to allow you to carry the rest of the game and snowball really hard if you just get a little bit of a lead. Next up, we're taking a look at Kael. Now, although she's due for a rework, right now she's in a great spot, at least for SoloQ for sure. She's not really played that often with a 1.3% pick rate, but she's pretty much in the top 3 of win rates for all characters throughout the years, really. She's had such a great history of a really high win rate and just dominating SoloQ. And having a good win rate is definitely very indicative of a champion being good in SoloQ, because really what it tends to mean is more so just how difficult that champion is to play at a level that allows you to win games in a competitive nature. Kael's just such a diverse champion. She's got great utility, she can carry the game by herself, especially once you get her core items, Nashers and Ginsus. She can just melt turrets, split push, 1v1, team fight. She's just such a great all-round kind of champion. You could build her with burst damage or with sustained damage, and she's got some kiting tools and all sorts of cool stuff that you could do with Kael. Her ult, of course, is just amazing, especially since the nerf to burst damage recently. It's going to allow you to have a little bit longer of a window of time to react to be able to use your ultimate in a high-pressure situation. Besides all this, she's also just a great split pusher, one of the few champions in the game that builds AP and attack speed, the two best stats in the game for doing damage to turrets. And Kael really just is a force to be reckoned with. She draws a ton of pressure to her, she can dominate the laning phase, team fights, and because of her utility, she'll always be relevant in-game and useful, even if she's 0-3 pushing inside lanes. So definitely give her a try sometime. Highly recommend her. You won't be disappointed. Another great pick we have is Sion. He's definitely a force to be reckoned with at the number 2 highest win rate in top lane and the actual number 1 support win rate at the moment of making this video, and really he's kind of just getting better with the meta changes. Since patch 8.13 his win rate's been going up and up by about 1% per patch, but his pick rate is still only a small 4%. Now I know that's kind of treading the line, but for a champion that is so consistent and good in the game, he really deserves to be played a lot more, so I think he still kind of qualifies for this video, and when you compare that to especially the other more popular top laners, it's really just incredibly low of a play rate, especially considering how strong he is. His playstyle has definitely changed though, since his E was nerfed and his Q base damage was increased, which I guess maybe has taken people a little bit of time to get used to, but overall it's definitely still really strong if you're used to it and playing it correctly. Right now, people are tending to use Sion in a little bit more of a passive way, more effectively than they used to, running Glacial Augment as their keystone, which when paired with Approach Velocity works really well with his entire kit, including the passive. Sion's also got an incredibly strong late game thanks to the buff scaling on his W in patch 8.16, and since game times are only really getting longer, the longer the game, the tankier he gets, and well, he gets pretty darn tanky. When you pair that with his engage tools, you've got a great teamfight force with a super effective engage tool. Even on the support role, he gets really tanky as the HP scaling on his W increased from 10 to 15 on large monsters and minions and champion kills. Even in support, he can actually get pretty tanky thanks to Relic Shield and the HP scaling on his W, which was increased from 10 to 15 on large monsters and minions and champion kills. And if you start with Relic Shield on Sion support, last hit those cannon minions for your 80 carry, you're going to build up a lot of HP pretty fast, even just in the laning phase, even though you might not end up getting that much gold income on a support. So it's really understandable why he's one of the best top laners and one of the best supports at the moment right now, and he's definitely a great option for playing in SoloQ. Not only did patch 8.13 bring up Sion's win rate pretty heavily, but it also saw a rise in the win rate of Heimerdinger. Heimerdinger's been pretty popular off and on in the bot lane, especially in pro play, and he's also surprisingly good in the mid lane too. His mid lane win rate's been pretty good for well over 2 months now, but the thing to understand is that even though he tends to get played at the pro level, his pick rate is actually at a crazy low 1.6%, which is definitely low enough to be in this video. Considering all the new players he's been getting, Heimerdinger's win rate has definitely still been skyrocketing, and really he's just a super strong champion and brings a really powerful force that, especially in the bot lane, is pretty easy to play. You kind of just set up your turrets and chill. In terms of the laning phase, there's not all that much overall difficult moves you need to make to come out ahead, and when you think about what his kit offers, it definitely makes sense. You know, he's got the great lane control, he can kind of just push all day or just chill. He could stay safe in lane as well with his super long range on his abilities too. He's got great sustained and burst damage, a big area of effect crowd control ability, the pushing power is immense, and his only downside really is just kind of low mobility, so he can be a little bit susceptible to ganks, but oftentimes, especially if you've got a lead, you can 2v3 sometimes, or just 1v2 if you're in the mid lane because you got your turrets set up, and he does get a movement speed buff around his and his allied turrets. The Donger is definitely a formidable foe, and he's going to continue to wreak havoc on the mid and bot lane until Riot decide to do something to stop him. Now the current meta has seen quite the variety of mid laners, but one that definitely flies under the radar, I have to say, is Zilean. And Zilean's kind of a character that always tends to make these sort of lists, I guess, despite being seen in the past split in the LCS, and the fact that he's a really viable pick for competitive play too. You know, his kit's really good for both mid lane and support as well. He's got great pushing, wave clear, and he's also a really solid pick into mid lane assassins because of his ultimate, which, you gotta say, are pretty popular to play at the moment. He can mitigate so much of their damage, and with his pushing power he can stop the enemy laner from roaming quite well and just have a good control on the overall laning phase, and especially against champs like LeBlanc and Zed is going to be really powerful. Not only that, but of course he's got so much utility, amazing crowd control, and his ult, especially if you're in the mid lane, is just insane because it revives people with like full health. It's probably one of the best ultimates in the entire game, and all of this adds up to his win rate being an astonishing like 55 to 57%ish in the mid lane, give or take here and there depending on what patch it is, and he's got a really high win rate on support too, and his pick rate is incredibly low, less than 1% in the mid lane, which is just crazy if you think about how actually strong he is and how great of a counterpick he can be to assassins. I gotta say, I think people are definitely sleeping on Zilean, especially in the mid lane. If you've got the time to play him and learn how to land his bombs, the skill shots, you should definitely consider it. Now, another champion that is a great option to play, specifically on the support role, is Sona. She's not necessarily viable at the pro level of play, but for SoloQ, she's always just an amazing pick with a win rate that stays relatively stable and really high compared to other supports. You know, her poke damage just dominates the laning phase, her ultimate's incredible in teamfights, but yet she's only got a 2% pick rate at the moment. Thanks to the changes on items like Athene's, Sona's seen some really nice indirect buffs over the last few patches that have helped her out. And while the meta shifts, bringing back some more traditional crit ADCs here and there, she's certainly become a lot more viable, and she's really just got all the tools you would need to dominate the laning phase. Great sustain, heavy poke, her ult's a great bit of engage or crowd control, and she can also really just set up teamfights pretty easily. She's just really easy to learn mechanically, and she's a great option for someone who doesn't want to spend a long time learning a champion. You know, of course you can spend a lot of time mastering Sona, but to play her at a kind of competent level is extremely easy compared to some more mechanically complex champions. Her buffs, utility, and itemization makes her a great pick to complement really just any bot laner in any meta, really. Now, as the patches go on, a champion's runes can change here and there. One thing gets weaker, some things get stronger. Now, Pantheon's definitely an example of a champion that's changed with the times. Electrocute Pantheon used to be incredibly overpowered, however, due to the nerfs, Pantheons are now actually using Aftershock on him at the moment, which does work really well for him thanks to the guaranteed proc from his W, meaning his trading potential is actually now surprisingly strong, especially in the laning phase, if it wasn't already. Not only has he got the better traits from Aftershock, but he's also just been a great, incredible champion for snowballing and dominating the laning phase, and having a great map presence with his ultimate. You can steamroll over your lane opponent, put pressure all over the map, transfer your lead to other lanes, and overall just dominate the entire game by yourself, especially in the early game. I would highly recommend Pantheon to anyone who wants to play a champion that's really strong in the early game. His pick rate is just under 4% at the moment, but he has a really high win rate above 53%, which is just amazing, significantly above average, and overall he's just a great option, and I gotta say is probably my personal most favorite champion to play on today's list. I definitely have a lot of fun playing Pantheon up in the top lane for sure. But either way, that's just about going to wrap it up. These are kind of my sleeper picks that I think are flying under the radar right now a little bit. I'd love to know which off-meta champions you've been playing at the moment. Definitely let us know in the comment section below. Maybe check out some of our other videos too if you enjoyed this one. There should be some on your screen to pick from right now. Either way, looks like that's going to be it for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.